Hello and a very warm welcome to this important video. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects millions of pensioners in Germany, and it could be extremely relevant for you or your family. We're talking about the new Active Pensioners Act 2026 and the opportunity to earn up to €2,000 tax-free if you continue to work as a pensioner. Now, that sounds great at first, but as always, the devil is in the details, and that's exactly why we're taking the time today to explain everything thoroughly. Before we jump in, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any important updates on pensions, taxes, and financial topics. Especially with legislative changes like this, it's crucial to stay up to date. Plus, every subscription helps me continue producing informative videos like this for you. So, if you enjoy the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Alright, let's get straight to it. Here's the situation. In Germany, more and more pensioners want to or need to continue working in retirement. The reasons for this are diverse. Some people simply want to stay active and continue to contribute their professional expertise. Others need the additional income to maintain their standard of living or afford certain things. And then there are those who work for social reasons because they value the contact with colleagues and the structure it brings to their daily lives. The numbers speak for themselves. Over 1 million pensioners in Germany have a side job, and this number is constantly rising. This, of course, has broader societal implications. On one hand, the economy benefits from the experience and knowledge of older workers. On the other hand, there is the question of how to handle this situation fairly from a tax perspective, while creating incentives for pensioners who want to work to do so without excessive bureaucratic hurdles. This is exactly where the Active Pensioners Act 2026 comes in. The basic idea is relatively simple. Pensioners who continue to work should receive financial relief through a tax-free allowance of up to €2,000 per year. In concrete terms, this means that as a working pensioner, you won't have to pay taxes on the first €2,000 you earn from work. That's direct financial relief, which translates to about €166 per month. Now, you might be wondering, why exactly €2,000 and not more or less? Policymakers have weighed various factors here. On one hand, they wanted to create a noticeable incentive to make working in old age worthwhile. On the other hand, they had to keep an eye on the impact on the national budget. €2,000 is a compromise intended to satisfy both sides. It's enough to make a difference, but not so much that it excessively burdens the social security funds. Let's do the math to see what this could mean for you. Imagine you're a pensioner and you have a mini-job or a part-time position. Without the Active Pensioners Act, you would have to pay taxes on your additional income, depending on your personal tax rate. Let's say you earn €500 a month from your side job. That's €6,000 a year. With the new law, the first €2,000 of that are completely tax-free. So you only have to pay taxes on €4,000. Depending on your tax rate, this could mean savings of several €100 per year. But who exactly benefits from this law? Generally, the regulation applies to all pensioners who have reached the standard retirement age and continue to engage in paid work. This includes both employed and self-employed pensioners. It's important that the income comes from active employment. Income from renting, leasing, or capital investments does not fall under this rule. The law specifically targets people who contribute through their labor. However, there are also some requirements that must be met. You must already be receiving your old age pension and have reached the standard retirement age. If you retired early, different rules may apply. Furthermore, you must properly declare your additional income in your tax return. The tax-free allowance is not granted automatically, but must be applied for. This means a bit of paperwork, but we'll get to that shortly. An important point that many overlook is the combination with other allowances. The €2,000 tax-free amount is in addition to other tax benefits that pensioners already have. For example, there's the basic tax-free allowance, which applies to all taxpayers. In 2026, this is projected to be around €11,400 for single individuals and twice that for married couples. This means your total taxable income can be even higher before any taxes are due at all. Let's talk about the practical implementation. How do you actually get this tax-free amount? The process is handled through your annual tax return. You must declare your additional income from employment in the corresponding section. There will be a specific area where you can claim the active pensioner allowance. The tax office will then review your information and apply the allowance when calculating your tax liability. For many pensioners, this means they will have to file a tax return for the first time or after a long break. This can seem intimidating at first, but don't worry, there are many support services available. Income tax assistance associations offer advice on these specific topics, and the costs are manageable. Alternatively, you can use tax software that guides you through the process step by step. Many of these programs have special sections for pensioners and automatically account for the new regulations. Now we come to an aspect that is often underestimated: Social Security contributions. Even if your additional income is partially tax-free, it doesn't automatically mean you are completely exempt from Social Security contributions. Depending on the type of your employment, contributions for health and long-term care insurance may apply. For a mini-job up to a certain monthly limit, the employer usually pays the flat-rate contributions. If you earn more, you may become liable for contributions yourself. It sounds complicated, but basically, you need to remember that the tax-free allowance and Social Security contributions are two different things. One relates to income tax, the other to your Social Security. Both must be considered separately. In many cases, working is still worthwhile because you end up with more money than if you were only receiving your pension. Another important aspect is the effect on your pension itself. If you work as a pensioner, you continue to pay into the pension insurance system, at least with certain types of employment. This has a positive effect as these additional contributions increase your future pension. Once a year, these extra contributions are calculated with your pension, and you receive a small pension supplement. This is called a pension increase through continued employment and can add up over the years. Many pensioners also wonder if there is an upper limit, whether you can earn an unlimited amount. The good news is that for several years now, there have been no income limits for pensioners who have reached the standard retirement age. So you can theoretically work and earn as much as you want without your pension being reduced. The €2,000 tax-free amount is therefore not a limit, but a bonus. If you earn more, you only have to pay taxes on the amount exceeding €2,000. Now, let's look at some practical examples to make this even clearer. Take Maria. Maria is 67 years old and receives her full old age pension of €1,200 per month. She also works part-time in an office, earning €800 a month. That's €9,600 of additional income per year. Thanks to the Active Pensioners Act, €2,000 of that is tax-free, so Maria only has to pay taxes on €7,600. With her personal tax rate of about 15%, she saves €300 a year. Or let's take Hans. Hans is 68 and works as a self-employed consultant. His income varies, sometimes more, sometimes less, but on average he earns about €3,000 a month from his consulting work. That's €36,000 a year. Hans also benefits from the Active Pensioners Act because the first €2,000 are tax-free. With his higher income and a correspondingly higher tax rate of about 30%, he saves €600 a year. It's not a life-changing amount, but it's a nice bonus that makes working even more attractive. It's also important to understand what happens if you don't work for the entire year. Maybe you start working in May or stop in September. The €2,000 tax-free allowance applies to the entire calendar year, regardless of how many months you actually worked. This means you can claim the full amount even if you only worked for half the year. This makes the regulation particularly flexible and attractive for pensioners who only want to work seasonally or on a project basis. A topic that often comes up is the question about the spouse. If both partners are pensioners and working, each individual can use the €2,000 tax-free allowance. So, as a couple, you can earn up to €4,000 tax-free together. This is especially interesting if you file your taxes jointly. In this case, both allowances are considered when calculating your joint tax liability. Now, I also want to address some criticisms of the Active Pensioners Act. Not everyone is enthusiastic about this regulation. Some unions and social associations argue that €2,000 is too little and that pensioners who have to work because their pension is not enough should receive more relief. Other critics say that the law mainly helps well-off pensioners who are already financially secure, while low-income pensioners hardly benefit because they remain below the basic tax-free allowance. On the other hand, there are also voices saying that any relief is better than none, and that the Active Pensioners Act is a step in the right direction. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. The law is not a cure-all for the problems of old age poverty, but it is a component that provides concrete help to many pensioners and makes work in old age more attractive. A practical tip on the side: if you work as a pensioner, you should definitely keep all receipts and documents carefully. This applies to pay stubs as well as certificates from your employer. For the self-employed, these are invoices and proof of income. You will need these documents for your tax return, and they can also help if the tax office has questions. The better you document everything, the easier the process will be. One more important note: the Active Pensioners Act officially takes effect in 2026. This means you can claim the tax-free allowance for the first time for the 2026 tax year. You will then file the tax return for it in 2027. If you are already working as a pensioner, you should prepare for this and perhaps speak with a tax advisor or an income tax assistance association to be optimally prepared. It's also worth taking a look at the long-term perspective. The Active Pensioners Act is initially valid indefinitely, but like all tax regulations, there may be adjustments in the future. Politics reacts to economic developments and societal changes. So, it's possible that the tax-free amount will be increased in the future, or that additional regulations will be added. That's why it's important to stay informed and up to date. To conclude, I'd like to give you a few concrete recommendations. First, inform yourself with your employer or client about the tax aspects of your employment. Second, mark your calendar for when you need to file your tax return and plan enough time for it. Third, consider whether it makes sense to seek professional help, especially if you are filing a tax return as a working pensioner for the first time. Fourth, calculate for yourself how much you can actually save through the tax-free allowance so you have a realistic expectation. The Active Pensioners Act 2026 is a positive development for all pensioners who want or need to continue working. It creates financial incentives, makes work in old age more attractive, and recognizes the valuable contribution that older people make to our society. At the same time, it's important that you are well informed, know your rights, and use the regulations to your best advantage. I hope this video has helped you better understand the Active Pensioners Act and see how you can personally benefit from it. If you still have questions, feel free to write them in the comments. I'll try to answer all questions, and maybe we can do a follow-up video if there are many similar questions. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you do not miss any important updates. Also, feel free to share this video with friends and family who are also pensioners and working, as this information can really make a difference. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Stay healthy and informed.